And again, if this is your first call and this is the first time you're seeing me, my name is Candace Davis. I'm the Network Community Manager here with Swipe Out Hunger, and I am so lucky to be leading these calls. We base all the content on information that y'all are asking for, and of course, best practices from across the network. Over 900 campuses now of special practices, programs, tools y'all are utilizing to serve your students better. So today we're going to be talking about working with dining services to support student needs. And thank you for starting to drop in all your intros. I sit in Houston, Texas, so I'm glad to see we've got some other Texans on the call. Um, Colorado, Florida. Jasmine, great to see you're here today. Colin, good to see you. Excellent. Someone from Puerto Rico. Thank you so much, Michelle. Um, this hour is going to blow by fast, so I'm going to go ahead and jump in. Today, you'll hear from two campuses. We'll have some quick campus spotlights. They're going to share some really exciting information about what they've done on their campuses, programs that have had success, and the ways they've partnered with their dining services. Then you're going to hear from one of our great team members, Sage McCoy. She's going to be sharing a new resource for everyone, and we'll release that out to y'all, share the link, and go over it a little bit, sharing network best practices, programs that we're hearing work well with dining services on campus. We'll have time for a bit of a Q&A, and then we'll run through what's next, what to expect from SIPE over the summer, and how you can stay connected with us. So to get going quickly, again, two campuses are going to be joining us. We'll be hearing from the University of Arkansas from Delaney, and then we'll also be hearing from George Mason University. Dwayne's going to be hopping on the call. Very excited to hear from both of them, and I think y'all are going to learn a few things about what they've been doing. So we'll kick it off first to the University of Arkansas. Delaney's joining us from Full Circle Food Pantry, and we'll be sharing a bit about what's happening over there.
Hello, my name is Delaney Ferris Dyer. I use she, her, hers pronouns. And like Candace mentioned, I work for the University of Arkansas. I'm an assistant director in our Center for Community Engagement, which is where our food programs, Razorback Food Recovery and the Jane B. Gearhart Full Circle Food Pantry are housed. These programs are housed in our Volunteer Action Center, which has about 60 student leaders who oversee 6 programs, all community focused, all service focused. We've got some mentorship programs, literacy-based programs, as well as community engagement. But I specifically work with the food side of the house. So I'm just going to give you a couple quick overviews of our 2 programs and just highlight how dining services has been so pivotal in the work that we're able to do. I'll also mention that Sage used to be in this role as well, and so might have some great insight to contribute as I go. So if I forget something, Sage, that's super duper crucial, please jump in. I have only been in this role, it'll be 2 years in August, so some context there. But Razorback Food Recovery started in 2014. It started out when a student recognized excess food waste in campus dining halls. So they kind of got a plan together, worked with Chartwells, that's our on-campus dining partner, to talk to Chartwells about how could they work together to create a system to recover that food waste and get it back out into the community, both campus and community at large. So that was a lot of logistical conversation, some legality conversation in there, and just trying to figure out what's going to work best for both organizations. They got a program established, and they had about 60 volunteers that they were running at all campus dining halls to recover food. You'll see on the side there some stats from this last year. They have about 20 volunteers now, and that's because Chartwells has adjusted their production patterns. Razorback Food Recovery does a great job advocating to them, letting them know those numbers every semester. And so, and I think technology has advanced since 2014 as well. So they're probably better able to do some prediction models. And so they've seen that number change a bit. And so that's why you see Razorback Food Recovery expanding into retail spaces. That's a local grocery as well as Starbucks. They take that food, they can repack it into kind of like TV tray size, single meal types, and they send that within the community and then another campus partner as well. And then they also take recovered food to Life Source, Salvation Army, different feeding and housing programs across our community. So Our Razorback Food Recovery's got longevity on its side, and being established as long as it is. It also, on their student board, they have a point of contact that specifically is over communications with Chartwells. I think that has been extremely valuable. And then they have a staff member, me, who gets to support them in that. They go to all dining halls every semester and talk about what their program is. They hear from the dining halls themselves, the staff members that are doing the work. How can they make processes easier, simplify things? And that's always a really fruitful conversation that helps them have a successful semester. Razorback Food Recovery has to be one of the most flexible programs because consumption patterns and change so frequently on campus. So we see them, they don't have a set schedule that gets to stay and run. When I first took on this role, I thought, great, once they get a recovery schedule set, it's perfect. But they're constantly adjusting to what the dining halls need. And so that communication piece is just really, really crucial for the work they do, and data collection and management as well. Next slide. So Jamie, your Full Circle Food Pantry, we just call it Full Circle because it's kind of a mouthful, but Full Circle Food Pantry was established in 2011 and is actually in what used to be a Chartwell's kitchen on campus. So the partnership with them started really early. Chartwell's has been wonderful in communicating if they have an excess of product, say it's granola bars or products that's shelf stable like that, and communicating with the students that lead these programs and making sure that we receive that product. We also, it's important to note here that we're accessible by Chartwell's employees, so they're able to utilize the pantry as well. We have great communication with Chartwell's HR team. So because they're contracted, they all have their own kind of operational units that oversee how they run within our campus. And so ensuring that we're connected with different members of that Chartwell's team to make sure that they're getting accurate information about pantry operations and things like that is really important. So again, 2011 is a long time to build a relationship with them. I know that when food programs were first kind of getting started around the campus, they were meeting with Chartwell's weekly, one-on-one, just having conversation with different leadership members of Chartwells. Each of these dining halls has a different chef that oversees the kitchen, so it's really important that that they are engaging in those relationships. That's shifted now that it's become so established. We meet with them twice a semester. The students set that up, run those meetings, and it's really just an opportunity to say, this is going really well, this part not so well, like how can we work together to problem solve? A really good example of this is Razorback Food Recovery wants to start composting food that they're not able to fully recover when they finish their shifts. So how do we already engage in the compost system Chartwells has? And so they're working that out, and I expect by the end of summer, they will start doing that more successfully. So communication, can't emphasize it enough, and consistency, just outreach and consistency has been so valuable for these programs. So next slide. You got to see the faces. These are the faces of the work. So at the top, that's Full Circle Food Pantry, the student leadership board there. And then on the bottom, that's Razorback Food Recovery. So these are the ones overseeing all those operations, overseeing those communications. And then I aim to just support them in the work they do and ensure some program sustainability. I'll highlight at the bottom, those are 2 refrigerators. The little yellow one, that is just a friendly fridge where some of those repacked meals get placed. It's in a dorm here on campus or residence hall here on campus. And then the silver one was established last summer with both programs. And it's on our 2nd floor in our union, so a pretty central location on campus. Chartwells has kind of a convenience store model in our union, and they actually bring product directly from that store and put it into the fridge when it's approaching its best by date. So that's really cool because they've taken such ownership of it. So we established the actual fridge, and that shelf is where we'll put like excess mini pantry items. But Chartwells has just taken such a big step in making sure that it stays stocked. And so I just saw a post on Instagram today where they just put product in, and Razorback Food Recovery just goes and kind of captures the data, makes sure everything's food safe and clean. And so yeah, these are the ones that make it happen. And that's kind of an overview of how we work with Chartwells and what's been successful for us.
Thank you so much, Delaney. Love to see how much of it is student led, student run, student initiated. and the sustainability y'all have been able to have by having your programs operate that way. Thank you for sharing, and I'm sure we'll have more questions for you here a little bit later in the call. But now I'm going to bring Dwayne on the call, again from George Mason, to take us over.
Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. My name is Dwayne Hamilton. I use he, him, his pronouns, and I'm the Assistant Director for Basic Needs Services at George Mason University in Fairfax, Virginia, which is in the greater Washington, D.C. metro area, so about 30 minutes outside of D.C. Next slide, please. As we're thinking about our dining considerations and how we work with dining, it's important that I wanted to contextualize the work that we do in the larger operation of our center. And so, the Student Support and Advocacy Center provides students with an empowering environment where they're able to explore healthy life choices. And we do that in a variety of functional areas, including basic needs services, which is where my position is housed, collegiate recovery, substance use and recovery generally, financial well being, on and off campus student support, respondent services, and sexual and interpersonal violence. And so these are some of the functional areas that we support students in, recognizing that these areas are often intersectional with basic needs and security, in this context, specifically food insecurity. And so if we think about it, the SAC services is the one large overview of what we do. Then we have food insecurity initiatives that fit within that realm. And then the Patriot Pantry is one of those food insecurity initiatives. And so that's how we set up our office to ensure the longevity of our programs and recognizing the benefit and purpose of each program. And I'll talk about that in a little bit. Next slide. So, in terms of our comprehensive food insecurity support, one of the things that was most influential in working with our dining partner, Sodexo, which has been over a 10-year partnership, has been recognizing what is the purpose of each food security platform that we're utilizing and how are students going to engage with it. And so, starting at the top, the Patriot Pantry is the largest most easily accessible food security service that we provide to our students, where we use the Vital Food Hunger Signs food insecurity screener, where students only have to self-identify as food insecure for 2 questions to access the Patriot Pantry. The Meal Swipe program, which we'll spend the majority of today talking about, students have to fill out a 6-question food insecurity screener to access that and demonstrate a need there. And the Digital Purchasing Card program, which is our most high functioning support system for students on campus that provides, or students need to access a pre and a post survey and a few other forms of support that students are able to access. And so the Patriot Pantry, our food pantry, has provided over 21,000 pounds to 800 unique students, and our digital purchasing card has provided over $83,000 to 75 unique users of that program. And so, one of the things that is most important in providing and promoting this program is recognizing that each of these programs has a different need. As we are working with dining services, we recognize that they are a business, they are an institution, and they themselves are looking to make a profit, out of the meal swipes that they are giving to students and in working with us and donating to us. And so, recognizing and naming that fact really allowed us to see that we have a limited number of supplies that dining services graciously given us. How can we be the most judicious with those supplies? And we have done that by creating a tiered system that students access certain platforms based on the level of need that they demonstrate. Next slide, please. And so, in our collaboration with Mason Dining, we have created 3 different programs in collaboration with them. First being the Meal Swipe program. This is an application-based program free of charge to students without a meal plan that provides them with emergency access to the dining hall. Students applying based on their level of need can get 5, 10, 15, up to 20, or even 50 swipes at a time, depending on the level of urgency that they're experiencing. One example being if a student was displaced because of some type of sexual interpersonal violence experience and was moved onto campus and needs emergency housing in that way, that student may receive 50 meal swipes from this program. And so the meal swipe program is students apply and those swipes are located or loaded, excuse me, onto their student IDs. Swipe for Change is a donation program where students with a specific type of meal plan twice a year can donate additional guest swipes that they have to the meal swipe program. And so in the last academic year, we saw students donate 400 meal swipes in total to our meal swipe program. Lastly, Coins for Change is the newest addition to our collaboration with dining services, in which they provided round up technology into the retail locations on our campus as to where people, when they purchase, whether it be from the convenience store or a variety of other locations on our campus, they can round up their purchase to the nearest dollar, and those funds are then poured back into the meal swipe program and allows our office to purchase more swipes. And so these are three different ways in which we are able to not only give out these swipes to students, but also in the ways that we're fundraising and further supporting the mission of our institution by gaining swipes from our community members as well. And so as we're doing this, these are just two examples of promotional materials that we would use as we are working with students to raise awareness about the donation periods of time where we work with University Life, that's our student affairs unit, Mason Dining, the Mason Card Office, which is our University ID office, and then University Sustainability, which provides us with volunteers for these swipe out events or these swipe for change events. And so, as you can see on the screen, people with a specific type of meal plan with available guest swipes are available to donate those during the periods of time outside of the dining halls as they're walking in and out and purchasing breakfast, lunch, or dinner at the dining halls. Next slide. And so we have just recently relaunched our food recovery network. And so they've been able to do a lot of great work this academic year in providing and working with our dining services. On the screen, you can see the two organizations that they've been providing that food to and are slowly expanding to benefit students on our campus as well. But overall, they've donated about 1,800 pounds of food from our dining services that would have been waste to these organizations in need. And so I'm definitely available for questions at the end and also could put contact information in the chat if anybody wants to connect offline as well.
Thank you, Dwayne. We're gonna keep collecting questions in the chat and share them at the end, but I already see some in there. So hold on onto the call here in a little bit. But so exciting to see 1,800 pounds already with a relaunch program. I hope y'all feel well accomplished with that. That's awesome. Thank you so much. So at this point, I'm going to invite Sage on, and she's going to go ahead and walk us through this new incredible toolkit that she's supported, and then we'll walk through some best practices. Ready, Sage?
Yeah, thank you so much, Candace. As Candace said, my name is Sage. I'm our Student Education and Engagement Manager, and I manage a lot of our written resources. So I was really excited to put this toolkit together to pair up with this webinar. As Candace said, this is a question that we get a lot, so I'm excited to share some of the things that I've seen personally from my work at the University of Arkansas, but also from conversations and surveys and learnings from our network in general. So we can pop over to the next one. So yeah, we wanted to share some best practices that we see outside of meal swipe programs. So some things that we've seen dining providers able to do to support anti-hunger programs on campuses. So thinking bigger than those meal swipe drives, because we know that sometimes if you don't know what's possible, you don't know what to ask for. And I think learning from Delaney and Dwayne today, it's all about conversation. It's all about, asking. It's all about, working with dining providers and understanding their space and their role on campus and how that can potentially support the work that you're doing. So just going to run through, the toolkit goes into a little bit more detail of like examples and ways to start those conversations, who to maybe reach out to initially. But just running through these 10 ways that dining providers can help y'all out potentially. Borrowing storage space. Delaney, before you joined and were in the position that I used to be in, our walk-in freezer went down and it was turkey time. We did baskets for Thanksgiving and we had a bunch of frozen turkeys and nowhere to put them. And we were able, I saw the wow reaction. Um, but we had that relationship with our Chartwell's folks, and they were able to move some stuff around and find some cold storage that we could borrow while we figured that out, and that was huge. So talk to your dining provider about potential opportunities to borrow or share storage space, because that can be a huge barrier. It's heartbreaking to get somebody knocking on your door with, "Hey, I got all this cold stuff that we would love to donate," and having to say like, "Oh, we don't have enough storage space to actually store all of that." So have those conversations before those crises come up and kind of see what those possibilities could be. Um, Repurposing dining infrastructure. So talking to them about like what y'all could use, shelving, those big, silver tables that are in dining halls and kitchens and things. Because if they upgrade, there's a chance that they could give y'all some hand-me-downs and help upgrade your infrastructure that way. Utilizing dining services purchasing power, we have members of our network that are able to work with their dining provider to purchase using what they like the systems that they use to purchase from those larger bulk, dining providers. And so being able to get product at a discounted rate because they are already purchasing in bulk. Um, so talking to them about what the logistics of that could look like. Survey integration, meal plan, food usage data. There's a lot of information that dining providers are tracking, and that could be useful to the work that you're doing. Who does, who doesn't have meal plans, what's being used, what's not. But also, is there a chance for them to add any questions that you are curious about for doing some data-driven decision making for your programs that maybe they could integrate into their systems? What could that look like? Next slide. Meal access support programs. So those are those meal swipe drives like we've heard about from Dwayne that we were founded on as Swipe Out Hunger. But also working with dining, could they donate swipes? Could they donate meal plans? Talking to them about, for every this many meal plans that are purchased, could y'all donate one meal plan for us to give to students as like a scholarship who maybe not able to afford them, especially on those campuses that purchasing a dining plan is required to live on campus? What could that look like to ease some of that for folks who are joining your campus as brand new students? Co-creating nutritional education workshops. I want to say all, but we'll say most. Dining providers on campuses will have a registered dietitian on staff, and they can be a huge resource for creating recipes, utilizing frequently stocked pantry items, doing cooking workshops, helping with that longer term education piece for students who are maybe creating meals on their own for the first time. And that also destigmatizes the work that you're doing as well, and those students accessing that resource. You can go next. Hosting awareness campaigns and events, being able to table at dining halls. Students are all going to those dining halls and those retail locations. Awareness campaigns, making sure that students know about your resources. If that's a barrier that you're facing right now. Hosting events such as like clean plate events to raise awareness about food waste and things like that. Um, Tagging on to any of those events as you're able to can be a huge way to get in front of students um, to share about the resources that are available and getting those meal swipes if that's the method that y'all are doing with your meal swipe donation programs. As something that we're seeing, as I have been working through our student experience survey, is students want to be able to utilize SNAP and EBT on campuses. And we are seeing that some campuses are able to do this. The toolkit will send you to some of our links on some national information about how to get that going, but that's a conversation that you can have with your dining provider as well. And then once that happens, continuing to talk about like what are creative ways to ensure that there are multitudes of options for things that can be purchased with SNAP and EBT. So having those conversations, that's one that can take some time to build and get implemented. But again, just having those conversations and asking what's possible is how those things get started. Next one. We heard about food recovery. That's a huge one. A lot of food is wasted in the US. How can we divert that waste into helping others? And then free food alert programs, working with your campus dining providers, especially if there's a catering arm, to get updates when there's a big event that maybe not a lot of people showed up to, or a big event that got canceled, but the food's already prepared. How can you make sure that students know that they can show up, get some Ziplocs, and stock their little fridges? Um, and those can be as simple as just having group me's that already exist, kind of like phone trees back in the day. How can you make sure that information gets out to students in a timely manner? But we see a lot of success with our network partners that are able to utilize a system like that. And again, it's just communication. It's just knowing when there is food and how to get that information out to students quickly. And those are the 10. Like I said, check out our toolkit. Um, and you'll get a little bit more details. And also, you can always reach out to the programs team if you see something that you want to implement but don't know how to start the conversation. And we are happy to be here for you. So I'll kick it back to Candace to facilitate some Q&A for me, Delaney, and Dwayne.
Thanks, Sage. Um, Thank you for running through that. And I know we hear so many ideas and innovations on campuses, and I see some of those folks on the call today. So feel free to share in the chat if there's things that you haven't heard mentioned or something you want to highlight from your campus. But definitely excited to hear about the number of schools that have been able to get EBT approved on their campus, and the ease to which their students are able to access milks, breads, fruits, especially when we start talking about transportation concerns too that impact students that maybe live on or off campus. But I'm going to open up the Q&A. Yes, the link for the toolkit's just been dropped in there. Thank you so much, Sage. I'm going to open up the conversation now for us to jump through some other questions that we might have for each other or from the chat. And one of the ones that I want to start with that, take it away, Delaney or Dwayne, was there a special MOU or process that y'all needed to go through to get approval to partner with your dining services providers?
Yeah, I can go ahead and get started. Yes, at Georgia Mason University, we involved a few vice presidents, one of our vice presidents for auxiliary services, our vice president for student affairs, working with auxiliary services is they're the ones who work with the dining partner and oversee those contracts and things of that nature. And then our vice president for student affairs or university life, who oversees the work that we do on our end, coming together in that way and working with our university council and legal system on the university end as well to make sure that we have an MOU in terms of how our money can be spent, what money can be spent on, how many swipes will be allotted a semester, what happens do those swipes, do they roll over into the next semester, really iron out and detailing all of the aspects of our meal swipe program is what is going into our MOU. And that really just started, to Sage's point, as a conversation. That really was us just sitting down and saying, well, how do we want to iron out this program? How do we want this program to look? Here are the details. Here's how we can hold you all accountable. Here's how you can hold us accountable to say that if we have this excess of swipes, this is what's transferring over to the next semester. So there's no confusion or turnover. And what we know, burnout in higher ed is real. And so as positions are changing and shifting out, that there's no confusion because we can go back to this central MOU document that details that outline of our program. And so, yes, we spent some intentional time creating an MOU that multiple vice presidents at our institution signed.
I love that you hit on the sustainability aspect of why we want these things in writing, and to have the administrative support that you do. That's awesome. Delaney, anything you wanted to add?
I am not aware of any kind of MOU formal agreement like that. And our swipe program is actually run through our Associated Student Government Board, oversees meal swipes for us. So unfortunately, I don't have much knowledge on that.
No, totally understand. I see another question in here about, are guest swipes different than other swipes? I see Dwayne shaking your head, so I think you've got an answer for us there.
Yes, absolutely. And so students are able to choose a variety of meal plans, and with some of those meal plans come guest swipes that students can then use to bring persons without meal swipes or persons who have run out of meal swipes into the dining hall. And so that's if there's a off-campus friend who doesn't have a meal plan but wants to eat with somebody who has a meal plan, those guest swipes can be used to bring that person into the dining hall free of charge. And so in our agreement with our dining partner, those are the swipes that can be donated, those guest swipes, as opposed to the swipes that are a part of a student's meal plan that they themselves use to get into the dining hall. And so that's kind of the difference between the two.
Thank you. And Dwayne, I feel like you're in the hot seat, but I got another question for you. Can you walk through a little bit the tier system for the three programs that you discussed?
Right, absolutely. And so one of the things that is most critical to the work that we do is ensuring that students don't feel the need to perform their poverty or perform their food insecurity or perform the things that they're experiencing as a way to get towards the resources that we have for them. And so we've aligned with just USDA standards and how they measure food insecurity in terms of the variety of levels of food insecurity screeners they have, some being as short as 2 questions to 6 questions to 10 questions to 18 questions to then some larger food insecurity screeners that we developed with nonprofit organizations in our community that we partner with for the digital purchasing card program. And so that's how we tier the systems in recognizing that, yes, I would be able to do that. I'm sorry, I was reading the chat at the same time. As we are tiering our system, as I mentioned, for the Patriot Pantry, for example, students have to identify as food insecure by answering a 2 question food insecurity screener. For the Meal Sweat program, students have to identify as food insecure through a 6 question food insecurity screener. And then as you get to the highest level of support that we provide through the digital purchasing card program, which I did not explain earlier, but more or less the digital purchasing card program provides students with a monthly allotment of grocery store funds that they could spend in retailers national or nationwide, I should say. And so in that tier, then students, we've created a longer form of a food insecurity screener that we work with students. Yes, I can do that too. We work with students. We work with the community partner to create that as well. And that's the highest level of demonstrated need. And that brings in some of those intersectional needs as well in terms of transportation, food access, food health, and health concerns and things of that nature as well. I mean, so those are kind of the ways that we tier and screen students for their eligibility into that program. And we also provide students with education to know what these terms mean. One of the things that we recognize is that students were like, I don't identify as food insecure because that's not how they describe their experience. And so how do we create that alignment in terms of this is what we need to see on our end for you to be enrolled in this program? And how do we also provide that education so that you have that language that you can then access these programs with? And so doing that as well, because we've had students who have not answered as food insecure, but after an intake meeting, I'm also a case manager in our office as well, so project and case management. And so after that case management meeting with the student, recognizing like, hey, you actually are food insecure. You just didn't know what that term meant, or you didn't describe yourself as such. Here's how you get access to that program.
Thank you so much for calling that out too. Sometimes we don't have the language to know what our situation is or how we would describe ourselves. So thank you for that. And I think you've made a lot of people's days with the potential to see some samples on the questionnaires that y'all are sharing. So thank you for offering to do that, Join. Delaney, you're going to get called in here because we're seeing a lot of questions around food reclamation now. So, first question is, is that food coming in big trays or individually packaged for students?
Yes, it's coming in large trays. Um, Majority of the time, Chartwell's already has it in like big aluminum pans. And we will take that. They have to have the date on it and they have to have what is actually in the tray labeled. So there are some labeling requirements that we train them on, they train us on. It's collaborative. But that's how the food comes. There is one instance, I put it in the chat, but the convenience store that's in our student union, Club Red, that's like individually grab and go packed items. So think of a lot of sandwiches. There's a lot of salads like hummus and crackers, things like that. Those are individually packed, which is really convenient for that fridge specifically. But when we get food in those big trays, that's when we'll take it and do our best to repackage it into to like single serve dinner style meals. And then the students will create new nutrition labels for all of those. They're heat sealed. I believe this is a program Sage actually implemented through a grant, but they're heat sealed and then placed in the various refrigerators and a couple campus or community fridges as well.
Awesome, thank you. And you started to talk about this around those food safety practices,
Yeah.
but we have some in the chat here or in the Q&A about any suggestions on how to work with dining services because of their concerns with food safety, and how do you overcome that with students?
Yeah. And then I also see a question here about the space being certified in a certain way. So Our dining hall, one of our dining halls is called Fulbright, has the central kitchen, but then they have a bakery area that's separate. It's across the hallway, and they are really kind to share space with us. So we have a little section of that bakery, and that is where all of our repackaging happens. So it's in a Chartwell's kitchen. So in terms of safety, that checks a lot of boxes by being able to do that in their space. We do purchase all the pans ourselves, things like that. We are also Serve Safe certified. All the students that are running those operations are Serve Safe certified. This coming year, we're actually going to Serve Safe certify our entire pantry board. In the past, it's just been one or two, but we see a lot of value in having them all have the knowledge and not relying on each other or one singular person as much. So that is a big part of that for us as well. The only time that food may not be like already in pans for us, like we'll have catering contact us sometimes, and that food is oftentimes does have to be removed because the pans are of such great size, and we'll have to like take it and make it into just smaller pans, things like that. But we've got some pretty strict protocols around food we're able to accept. So, we'll get the phone call of, hey, we've got 100 hot dogs left over from this event. And our first question is, were they kept at temp the whole time? And then the other question is, has that food been able to be accessed by anybody, basically? So if they take the lid off the pan, Razorback Food Recovery will not accept it. So those are some parameters that they've set in place with Chartwells to get it done. And then our pantry is certified by the health department as well, but there's not repackaging of the same nature happening from our dining halls in that space.
Thank you. Sage,
Uh,
I'm going to send one over to you because I think this ties in and it goes with your toolkit a little bit. But for folks that are just getting started and just starting the relationship with their dining service provider, and the dining service provider is really reluctant to start food recovery, where do you start? What's the starting point?
Yeah. Well, first, I wanted to pop back to add on to Delaney's answer a little bit because I was fortunate to be a part of the student team that got the repackaging going. And before Chartwell's had enough space in that bakery space to share, we actually partnered with an Episcopal church right down the road from campus. And they had a commercial kitchen for their services. And so we were able to utilize that space. It was logistics, right? Getting students to an off-campus location, moving the food. But that was a way that we were able to pilot that program. And so leaning on those church leaders in your area, if that's an option, is a really great way to find those types of kitchen spaces because we all know that space is a hot commodity on campus. So that was a possibility, and that was really cool. As far as reluctance, something that I find a lot, and I think that Dwayne touched on this a little bit, is acknowledging that they are a business and coming into that conversation ready to compromise. I'm sure a lot of us in this call have had those instances of really fired up students who want to make demands, and then that turns people off. And so coming in, honestly, the word pilot sometimes will get campuses and those who are reluctant to start something new a little bit more relaxed, understanding that you are willing to just try it. You're not making a long-term demand. You are interested in seeing if something can work and modifying it from there. And I also we try to encourage folks to be willing to start small and grow. So going into those conversations ready to maybe a part of the program that you want to launch or a part of the ask that you are asking of your dining provider, being willing to compromise so that you can grow from there is a huge part of getting them on board. And yeah, the food safety and stuff, if you look up the Bill Emerson Food Safety Act, that is like a Good Samaritan law around liability with donated food, and that can also ease some tension if they aren't already aware of that act.
And can I add one more thing to that?
Absolutely.
I would also say you don't have to reinvent the wheel. If your dining service provider has a contract or a pilot or an experience with another institution who is also doing that food recovery work, showing them that this is being done at another institution and here's how they're doing it. So they can then work internally within their company to contact people to see, oh, this is how this is being done. Here's how we're operating this on our campus as well, so that you all don't have to feel like you have to come up with the pilot yourself, but can also demonstrate, even if it's not our dining provider, here's what another dining provider is doing. Here's how it's benefited their campus. Here's the benefit that their dining company has gotten from it. So really speaking in their language, a part of that recognizing that they're a business is that businesses talk language. Businesses have a specific way that they like to hear things presented. And so being intentional about not only the language that you use, but also recognizing like you don't have to build the work, you know, if your school is working with Chartwells, you know, looking at what Delaney and them are doing over there and saying like, hey, this is a school that is doing this and we have also a contract with this organization. How can we make a similar program here with the resources and support that we have is something that is really huge in being able to make that happen as well. So you don't have to feel like you're building it from the ground up.
Yeah, thank you for adding that, Dwayne. And I'll say, I love that people in the chat are like sharing like if they want to be references. That's so fun. If you need help finding like a cousin campus who is close enough to try to connect with, Swipe is happy to search our network and our information to get you connected with folks if that's a barrier you're bumping up against, or even if that's like where you want to start, right? Like how is this happening somewhere else and how can I get started?
And I would be missing a huge opportunity to not plug right now that if you want to talk to campuses and you want to have a big coalition of folks to say, hey, who's working with insert dining service provider here? I don't want to call any specific one out right now. Join our Slack. I just dropped the link in there. And if you've been on that space before, you will see there are threads where people are asking, do you work with so and so? How have you been able to get X going? So feel free to join that space. There's hundreds of people in there that are going through some of the similar conversations that you're having, and you can connect with right away.
And Slack is searchable if you didn't know that too. So you can search for those like keywords instead of having to scroll a lot.
And I know there's a lot of questions about in-house dining. That's a different beast in itself because on one hand, there's a different business relationship there because it is with your own university. And I think there's some different specifications around that we can walk folks through one-on-one. Definitely encourage you to reach out to programs at swipehunger.org for that. But in the same thread, it's someone that's in-house and has a really strong commitment to your students, and will be really interested in helping you find a way to be collaborative. Okay, we're reaching the end of the time, but I just want to give one big round of applause to Dwayne and Delaney. But thank you both for joining, and of course, Sage, thank you for always sharing your expertise. Y'all have really given us a lot to think about and answered some tough questions, and I'm excited to see what resources come from this conversation. So thank you very, very much. We're gonna wrap up this call. We just have a little bit of time left. So feel free to drop any last minute questions, and if we don't get to them, I'll do them in the follow-up email. But today's session was recorded. So after this call, I'll send out the recording for y'all to reference or share with your peers should you need to do that. And then I'll also be sharing this slide deck. So any of the links that we've mentioned, we'll get those into your hands as well. But what you see here, typically this is the part where I tell you what we're talking about next month. But I'm going to let you know this is the last session again for this school year. We're going to go on pause for the summer, but we'll be back in September. In the meantime, just stay connected with us on Slack. I've shared the link already, but it'll also be hyperlinked in this deck. And look out for in July, we will be hosting our annual Summer Swipe Summit, where we'll be focusing on program planning, kind of bigger overarching conversations that have come up from this school year and what we're thinking about going into next school year. So we want to make sure y'all are joining us. So watch for those invitations. And then on your screen right now is a little QR code. If you haven't yet, pull out your phone, take that quick survey for me. It's super helpful so that I know how we did today and what we can change in our future sessions. Sage also dropped the link in the chat. And then Dwayne, if you didn't give us enough great resources, he did mention to us already, and he's dropped it there in the chat, that George Mason's hiring. So if y'all know any students in the DC area, Virginia area, There's a link there for that as well. And then if this is your first time being on a Swipe Out Hunger call at all, I've seen a couple of y'all in the conversation. You can reach us at programs@swipehunger.org. If you're interested in your campus and this is your first time, join our network. Let's talk about that. That's what that partnership agreement piece is there. And of course, if you want to know about all upcoming events, make sure you're on our newsletter subscription list. Sage and I will stay on the call for a few more minutes, but otherwise, that's it for today. And we wish you well and enjoy your summer if we don't talk to you soon.